Hi, my name is Noreen McClendon, and here's a perspective. Kevin Samuels is right, ladies. Yes, he's right. I know there's a petition to have him removed from YouTube, but he's right. From the handful of videos that I've watched of Kevin Samuels, he has a premise that if you want a high value man, there is a certain way that you need to look. He has a scale of 1 to 10. Think trophy wife. Having children that are not his is a hindrance. Having a bad attitude or being too mouthy is not likely to be tolerated. And you need to bring something to the table other than your body. Kevin Samuels catches a lot of heat for different reasons. Most of them have to do with delivery rather than what it is that he's saying. One criticism that I agree with is that Mr. Samuels is dismissive and condescending to women, and it's offensive. Even being in agreement, the ladies that call him have watched his videos. I don't understand why you call him knowing who he is and then are offended when you get what you get, and he is what he's always been. However, he is right in what he is saying usually. And here's the really important part. If you accept his definition of a high value man, let me say that again. If you accept his definition of a high value man and you are seeking that man, you need to listen to Kevin Samuels and take his advice. As I understand Mr. Samuel's definition of a high value man, he is a high wage earner. For this conversation, let's say he earns 6 figures. He holds a position of power or influence, is sought after by multiple women. And if he's famous or has celebrity, his value goes up substantially. I don't think these are the only traits he attributes to a high value man, but these are the highlights as I understand them. So if for any reason I'm incorrect, please disregard everything I'm about to say. But if we're gonna, let's look at the traits of let's call it the Kevin Samuels high value man. Here's a perspective. He's a high wage earner. In my experience, men who make a lot of money spend a lot of time making, thinking about, and safeguarding that money. There isn't always a lot of time left over for other interests. So of course, if he does step out on his first love, his money, she has to be eye candy. Duh. More often than not, she is in line with the American standard of beauty. Yes, this leaves room for beauty to be in the eye of the beholder. However, if a man is about his money, the woman he shows up with in business circles can actually help or hurt him financially. We may not like to think about it as real, but it is. Men judge each other similar to the way that women judge each other by our nails, the length of our weave, the clothes, the designers that we wear, what kind of bag we carry. They judge based on different factors. If this man is trying to amass power, climbing but not yet reached what he believes is his pinnacle of success, and shows up with a woman that men consider substandard or unacceptable, they may very well decide not to do business with him. Yes, they have petty genes too. They may feel like they can't trust his decision-making skills. If he has already reached a level of power and position that he wants to be at, he may want to protect his image. He may have a woman that he takes to events and in public because it's good for business, and has another woman that he knows his circle or society will look down on him for being with, but he maintains that relationship in private because that's what really turns him on. There are lots of reasons why a man that is a high wage earner will have a woman that looks as close to traditionally accepted beauty standards. His focus is in service to his money to a large degree. To have a man like this, a woman needs to go in knowing that she may be in second place to his money and be willing to accept whatever position he has for her. Men know in a very short order what position you can hold in their lives. Yes, the woman has to accept it. Not so much that his money makes him right, but because he doesn't have a lot of time to devote to anything other than his money or making it. There are only so many hours in the day. Recently, Oprah did a show about the transition out of basketball into retirement of Dwayne Wade. And when asked about the transition out of basketball into retirement, one of the things he mentioned was an adjustment that he actually spoke to a therapist about. Now that he was no longer on the Heat, he was further down the line of priorities in his home. Specifically, when he was playing basketball, if he would come home from the road, the family might say, "Oh, be quiet, Daddy's got to sleep. He's resting," or whatever. Well, once he was no longer on the Heat, that wasn't the case. He said, in his words, he was now fourth or fifth in the rotation, and he needed to adjust to that. So the family used to adjust around him because he needed their cooperation in order to earn all that money that helped to provide the lifestyle that they were accustomed to. However, once he's home all the time, the focus rightfully shifted to other members of the family. So the man earning a lot of money may have practical reasons why what he wants takes precedence over the women and children in his life. It is a lot of work and time consuming to be a high wage earner. He's in a position of power and influence. I know a lot of powerful men from every walk of life, from hood generals to politicians to entertainers and in between. These men tend to be high wage earners because of their laser focus on the endeavor or the money they perceive the endeavor will produce. It makes perfect sense when you understand that universal spirit law dictates that when you focus, what you focus on will come to you. Money is a byproduct of focus and hard work. So these two traits being connected is no mystery. It takes great focus to rise to the level of power and influence. Women are attracted to power. Hell, men are attracted to power and influence. So there's no question there. Put a period at the end of that sentence. So seeking this man requires accepting from the door that you will be second to his position or the endeavors that give him influence at some point in your relationship. The more mentally and emotionally immature and or unhealthy the man is will determine how much pain is in store for the woman that wants this man. His spiritual maturity is even more a factor than anything else. And that's a whole discussion in and of itself. Understand, if you want this man, you need to fit his vision for the position he has decided you can hold in his life. After very little conversation, men know what position you have the capacity to hold in their lives. Why is this the case? Because there are too many women that are willing to do more than you just for the appearance of having that man. Let's face it, The woman that is on his arm for appearance's sake, who really cares and wants a real relationship with him, will find it difficult to accept that he really wants someone else. This is obviously just one possible scenario. I'm not saying this is always the case. There's nothing wrong with an understanding. So a man and a woman can consent to, the woman can agree to be the trophy person that he takes out, and that's the nature of their relationship, understanding that he has other people. Two consenting adults can consent to whatever they'd like to consent to. Both parties should be clear up front what they're consenting to. And if that changes, they should have a conversation about that. Women don't like to ask clarifying questions about the nature of a relationship because men are scaredy cats. And the minute you start asking clarifying questions, the dreaded, where is this relationship going? Men start to run because they think you want to tie them down. I know in my case, more often than not, I want to know what's expected of me so that I can tell you whether I'm going to be able to meet that or not. I want to know what I'm supposed to get, what I'm supposed to give. So men are super scary, and as a result, they like to leave things ambiguous. It is the woman's responsibility to ensure that she understands what her position is. As I say in my book, Hurt People Highway, don't start acting like a wife when you haven't even yet been asked to be a girlfriend. Another thing, children that are not his. Again, if this is a high wage earner who has power and influence, he's busy. Children complicate things. That means that you're not available at certain points to be of service to him, to be there when he wants to take you somewhere, to cook him a meal, just spend time with him, rub his neck, watch the basketball game because you have children. Yes, that is a hindrance. If this is your definition of a high value man and this is the man you're seeking, when Kevin Samuel says, wait until your children are grown before seeking this man, he's right. It certainly increases your likelihood of being acceptable and being in this man's life. He's sought after by lots of other women. Let's be clear. Society would have women to believe that something is missing from their lives or something is wrong with them if they don't have a man. There will always be other women that seek any man of any level of quality. If the man you seek is a high wage earner, powerful and influential, he's sought after by more than a few other women. Some women seek to be with this man trying to become powerful or influential in their own right, as opposed to wanting to be a help mate to this man. This means that this man will always have other women willing to do what you want. As I like to say, them bitches make it hard on an honest hoe. They do. They're willing to do anything, sacrifice their dignity, have no requirements, no boundaries, and they make it hard on a woman that has value and self-respect for herself because he can always go to her because she's convenient. There's also a lot of women who are willing to violate anyone's relationship. So we're competing with that as well. A lot of times we need to understand, women like that should understand this. That shine you see on him is actually the woman that he's with. She either makes him look good or makes him feel so good about himself that he's shining because he's with her. And when he's no longer with her, that shine may not be there. There's also a class, and I use that term extremely loosely in this context, of women that only want a man that has another woman. Why? Because it alleviates the responsibility for her to be to that man what she needs to be to him. For some women also, there's a level of excitement that they feel when they feel like they're stealing somebody else's man. Bottom line, most men are sought after by more than one woman. The key for the women to understand why she wants a man sought after by the woman. That's key for her. You have to bring something to the table other than your body. I'm not sure when or how women got the notion that the only thing they had to do to have a man or keep a man in a relationship was to have a vagina. It's false. Whether he is the Kevin Samuels high value man or not. I've spent a lot of time with men throughout my life. I've been privileged to listen to their conversations, sitting like a fly on the wall. I watch their behavior. Let's be clear, if you want to have sex, all you need is a vagina. Anybody will do that. If you want to be in a relationship with a man, you need to have more to keep him in the relationship than just a vagina. A high value man has what makes him high value as a focus. He likely has other options of someone to spend time with. They also tend to get bored very easily. And there are lots of things that are distractions for them. Remember, his time may be limited, so he's likely going to go with his best option for stimulation and interesting conversation as well as sex. Men also want to be appreciated. Men have other interests other than sex. Shocker, right? I know, but they do. Men want to be appreciated the same way that women want to feel loved. We want to feel loved, to feel secure in our position in the relationship. Men need to feel appreciated, and this speaks to how a woman makes a man feel. It contributes to why some men seek prostitutes. The prostitute, it may be because she does things that his woman won't do sexually, but oftentimes it's also that she says things that make him feel manly. She appreciates him. She feeds his ego. And a woman that wants to keep a man needs to know how to do that at some point. She may say things to him that makes him feel powerful and masculine in business, and he needs that. So in short, she speaks to him in a way that encourages him to be at his best. Having a bad attitude or being too mouthy, not being tolerated. As we've discussed, this man is busy. He has a lot going on. He has lots of options. No one wants to be with a woman that has a bad attitude. I do know that men will tolerate a little spice. When you stand up for yourself, they appreciate that. With all that being true, the Kevin Samuels high value man will have a little less tolerance for it, nor should he be required to put up with that. Again, they don't mind a little space occasionally, but they don't always want you to have pushback and constantly be in combat. Men, and in my case, seeking black men in particular. Black men have to fight to survive in society every day. The last thing they want to do is come home to their woman and be in combat. So, as much as we may not want to hear it, that's the truth. So to reiterate, if you want the Kevin Samuels high value man, take his advice. Don't be mad. He's right. It's the game you choose to play in. It's the board game you choose because you're choosing that kind of man. I'm not offended by what Mr. Samuel says, and I'm not likely to ever call in to speak to him because I have a different definition of what a high value man is. Personally, I'm not seeking that man that Kevin Samuels described. I haven't been ever. I had a man that fit that description in my 20s. After I was no longer in that relationship, I began to look at the powerful men in my life. I learned that they were very focused on themselves, their money or power and influence, their first love. They focused on that. It left little time and little room for the women in their lives. My late brother was renowned for his work across the country in the United States. However, he spent 3 weeks out of every month on the road away from his family to pursue it. The world needed him. We are better off because he was who he was. Think about it this way. Think about the fact that Coretta Scott King had to take second place to the civil rights movement. This may give you an idea of how powerful men may not have a lot of time to focus on the woman in their lives. I looked at my previous relationship. I realized that I wanted a man that took me to dinner because he wanted to spend time with me. My high value man was going to those dinners, movies, and vacations with or without me. He certainly enjoyed my company. As he described me, I was just too much woman for him. Translation, I required reciprocity, and he couldn't fast talk or gaslight me into believing that somehow I was wrong for requiring responsibility or reciprocity and accountability for his actions. This was particularly true since he dominated my time. I had a right to ask for commitment and accountability. So from that time on, I don't intentionally seek a man that is pursuing large sums of money or trying to accomplish something massive. Notice I said I don't intentionally seek that man out. I'm not opposed to building with someone. I have been a part of building institutions that remain to this day, and I'm proud of those things, and I did that with a man. The work that I do is community building. So I understand the need for change and how hard it is to produce change. I'm also a producer in the entertainment industry. I appreciate what it takes. I will build with someone. I simply understand that if I make that choice, I am likely to be second to the focus in his life at some point. It is inevitable that one day I will want to be with him and he won't be available to be there for me. This is the same reason that I'm not interested in the man with the six-pack body. I've had those too, and they spend so much time in the gym, there's not a lot of time left over. Call me crazy, but I want a man to spend time with me. I want to do date nights. I want to take vacations, watch television, cook for him, support him. I want these things not just when he says so, but when I want him also. My high value man in my 20s was always there when I needed him. Whenever I needed him, he was there, but almost never there when I wanted him to be there. There was no balance. There are lots of good men that provide for and care for the women in their lives. Lots of them. They are not famous, but they're good men. I have certain traits that make a man high value to me. These are my traits. I encourage every woman, if you don't know what makes a man high value to you, you need to determine that for yourself. That requires you to look at yourself honestly, warts and all, and understand what man is best suited for you. For me, these things make a man high value. Availability. It's important that a man is truly available to be in a relationship with me. I don't want to share with other women unless I agree to this up front and the other woman knows that too. I don't like drama. I'm not cool with being misled about a man's availability. I want what I want when I want it. If a man is in a relationship with another woman, he likely doesn't have time to be in one with me. He also needs to be available emotionally. I come from a long line of emotionally unavailable men. I don't want to have to work through your childhood trauma in my 50s and 60s. I've done a tremendous amount of self-development to make me whole enough to be in a relationship with a man, my high value man. And I don't want to spend the next 5 to 10 years waiting on him to mature beyond his childhood traumas. I may not have that much time left to spend. So I have to get to it at this point. Honesty, even when he knows I'm not going to like what he says, but he respects me enough to tell me the truth and let me choose whether or not I participate. This requires him to be secure enough in himself and in his game to tell the truth. A man with weak game won't have the confidence to tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. If you weak, keep it pushing. Spiritual. He has to have a relationship with a power source higher than him. I'm not concerned about religion or practice of religion, but I know that he needs to have a spiritual foundation, and we need to communicate about it so that when something comes up that we don't readily agree on and we need a determining factor, something that's going to be the final say-so, that we have that to turn to. The scariest men in the world don't believe in a higher power. They know that they can't do everything, and they're scared of everything. They don't want to be vulnerable because of the last time they were, it didn't work out for them. A spiritual foundation allows a man to know that he can fall, but he will get back up again. I'm concerned about a man having something other than me to look to and something other than himself that he can rely on. I don't want a man that every time I'm out of his sight, he is so concerned about what I'm doing that he needs to clock my every move. But he has to have a spiritual foundation because everything is not always what it appears. And so that's important. I need a man to be able to go from the hood to the White House. My lifestyle is such that I may be in any place. I need him to be comfortable sitting out in front of the liquor store on a crate as well as being served dinner at the White House. I was, and I say this proudly, born and raised in the projects. I proudly call myself a project baby. Champlaus Homes, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. However, my life has taken me to lots of places, including the White House. So I need a man that is comfortable in all of those things, that his value goes up, his stock goes way up for me when he's comfortable anywhere. I need a man that's health conscious. I dated a guy who, to this day, I call the best relationship I ever had. But part of the reason that I ended the relationship is because he didn't care enough about himself physically. He would hurt himself and he would try to kind of wish it away as opposed to going to take care of it. I was concerned that at some point I would become a nursemaid, not because it had to happen, but because he let something go. As a woman, I don't have a problem caring for a man physically if it becomes necessary. But I don't want to do that when it could have been prevented. And so I need him to be health conscious, not only just physically healthy, but mentally healthy. It goes back to me talking about that man having that spiritual foundation and being mature and being healthy emotionally and emotionally available. That's important to me. it's important to me that he wants to be with me. That may sound simple, but I would rather be wanted and respected than loved. I have been loved by a lot of men. They still love me. But I want the man that wants to be with me. A man will not do certain things if he respects you. There are some things that he will do because he respects you. I want him to want to be with me. He's responsible. A responsible man will be financially stable. He won't have to hide from the authorities because of child support or back taxes. He won't lose his job every other month. He won't have hobbies or habits that interfere with basic necessities, and he won't have to live incognito because they never know when their behavior from the past is going to catch up with them in the future. Even the most notorious gangsters have to mature and transition beyond being an active gangster before the lifestyle overtakes them either through prison or death. There's just no, I don't know any successful gangsters that have never suffered either death or prison if they don't get out at a certain point. These are the traits that make a man high value to me. I encourage every woman, again, to decide what makes a man high value to her. Take the time to know yourself, warts, baggage, and all. Determine what kind of man best suits you, and don't settle for anything other than that. You're not deficient because you don't have a man. You become deficient because you allow people to dominate your time and deplete you of your energy, your fervor for life. You allow people to deplete you of that. That is what makes you deficient, not having a man. The biggest thing is in the selection process. Don't waste time when you know a man is not going to meet your needs or be acceptable for what you want in your life. If I decide that I want the Kevin Samuels high value man, I'm going to listen to him and take his advice on everything. I don't even have to call him into his show about it, because I've heard enough through the 3 or 4 videos that have been forwarded to me from Kevin Samuels that he's right. Why? Because I know a lot of men. I've been able to listen to him. I hung out. My house was the hangout for men in the projects. All the boys in the projects, they hung out at my house. I hung out with the football team in high school, at the frat house in college, managed the Little League football team and hung out with the coaches, did gang intervention, very male-dominated field. And I've listened to them, and I understand how they function and how they think. And so I accept Kevin Samuels' advice with respect to the high value man that he describes. Get your own definition and seek that man. This is just a perspective. What's yours?